Welcome back or welcome to Elements of Elaha, where I talk about things that interest me, affect me, or am very passionate about. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Forever. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So Forever is a young adult romantic drama based off of Judy Blume's 1975 novel of the same name. And of course, instead of being set in 1975, it is a reimagining. And it is a love story that takes place between two Black teens set in Los Angeles 2018. And the two leads for the show are Justin, played by Michael Cooper Jr., and Keisha, played by Lovie Simone. And Justin and Keisha are two childhood friends who reunite as teenagers, and they go through all their firsts together. And immediately, once I read the synopsis and I saw the trailer back when it was posted in January of 2025, I immediately drew connections to one of my favorite ships from one of my favorite teen dramas to come out this decade. And that was Jace and Crystal from Apple TV's sports drama Swagger that was unjustly canceled after 2 seasons. Apple fumbled that show badly. Now, the show was first announced back in 2020 with Mara Brock-Akil, the showrunner of Girlfriends and Being Mary Jane, as the showrunner for the show. And once I saw that, I immediately knew that we had another masterpiece on our hands, and the show now has a Peabody Award to prove it.
I know that's right.
But yeah, I knew it was going to be excellence because it seems like with all these other YA romance shows, they all follow the same formula. Like, no matter what streaming service it's on, no matter what setting it is, it always involves a Black person being done dirty. And especially if they're the only Black person in the main or recurring cast, you already know what they're here for. Like, it's all copy and paste. From To All the Boys, to The Summer I Turned Pretty, to XO Kitty, to My Life with the Walter Boys, and recently Finding Her Edge. They all cut from the same cloth. Speaking of that, Forever is one of the only shows I feel that represents teenagers accurately, and it was the first to do that properly since Swagger. A lot of the times when it comes to Gen X and millennial writers representing Gen Z, because you can tell Gen Z is not in that writer's room, they'll probably scroll through TikTok for 5 minutes and look at whatever AAVE is being repackaged as internet Gen Z slang, and they'll just call it a day. And it will be so cringe because they're like, oh, okay, how can I make this show be Gen Z? And then I'll just throw in a random like that's like, you ate that, or not the bang. And yeah, boom, automatically that's supposed to be accurate Gen Z representation. But Mara had her teenage son involved with the soundtrack for the show. So a lot of the songs that were popular amongst teenagers in 2018 and 2019, when the first season of the show was set, by the way, a lot of the songs that were popular back then were featured in the show. So we thank him for that. And it also, learning that also reminded me of back when Inside Out 2 came out. They were talking about how they screened the movie to a few teenage girls to make sure that they were representing teenage girls accurately. And that's how you do it. If you want to tell a story accurately, you got to get involved with said demographic you're trying to represent. Because you can't just be like, oh, I was in high school 30 years ago, so I know how to tell a high school story about somebody that was in high school in 2018 up until like today now in the mid 2020s. No, it doesn't work like that. Some things may stay the same, like the academics, but when it comes to social things, especially involving technology and social media, yeah, you're gonna need to get in tune with the kids, babes, if you want to tell an accurate story. And I'm so glad that Forever did that. And another thing that Forever did that makes it stand out from the rest of these romance shows is that not only do I care about Justin and Keisha having a happy ending together, but I was invested in them as individuals as well. A lot of the times when it comes to watching these romance shows, if the main ship doesn't end up together, you feel cheated because most of the development with these characters is just about their love lives. All the other aspects of their character take a back seat in order to prop up the romance in the show. So when they don't end up together in the end, you're like, what was I watching the show for? I barely know anything about the character besides their love life. And you're telling me they don't even end up together? But with Justin and Keisha's love story, even though they didn't end up together by the end of season one, the show's called Forever. We obviously know they're going to be endgame. But not only was I rooting for Justin and Keisha's relationship, I was rooting even harder for them as individuals. In the year and a half we followed them from New Year's 2017 to the summer of 2019, where they're about to go off to college, they had grown so much as individuals, and I am so proud of them for that. When we first meet Keisha, she is trying to pick herself back up from dealing with the fallout of her ex-boyfriend leaking her sex tape to their entire school, all to prove a stupid point among teenage boys. And this caused her to transfer schools and potentially jeopardize her career as a scholar athlete too. It really was bad for her because, like, not only are you a teenage girl, so you have to deal with misogyny, but you're a black teenage girl, so you got to deal with misogynoir, and you're one of the only black girls in your grade, and you're an athlete. Like, so much. And of course, like, a lot of people were bashing Keisha for that, and they're saying, oh, like, if Keisha just told her mom, it'd be easy. But what kind of person would just be like, oh, let me go tell my parents that I made a tape, and that tape is the reason why you had to transfer schools and why you had to work extra long hours so you can afford it. And that's one thing I really loved about the show was, like, it's not like all these things come out of thin air. The show was very realistic when it came to every single decision that these teenagers made because they're teenagers. And even though sometimes Keisha's actions were a bit frustrating to witness, that doesn't mean that she never loved Justin. She loved Justin enough to be like, I need to sort out my own mess right now, so please go find someone else. But Justin stuck by her because already Keisha had had to deal with so much judgment by people in their grade and potentially by their parents. So she doesn't need that much more judgment. What she needed was grace. And I loved giving her that. And all Keisha wanted to do was make her mom proud, because if she makes her mom proud, then her mom has done well as a parent. Because it's just Keisha and her mom. Her dad is off working around the world and didn't really spend much time in Keisha's life. So if Keisha's like, okay, if I have to play the fake dating game with my ex-boyfriend so my mom could be happy and then eventually I'll tell her what happened, I'll do it. So she went from a girl having to hide to her getting a scholarship at Howard and her being in a relationship with a guy that sees her. And honestly, I just love that for Keisha. She is definitely one of my favorite protagonists I've watched this past decade. And now that season 2 is doing a 4-year time jump, so now it is set in the summer of 2023, I cannot wait to see post college Keisha. And then when we first meet Justin, oh, Justin. Yeah, Justin was basically kind of like in Keisha's boat, living in a life that his parents wanted him to be in. So Justin went to a predominantly white school. He's been going to predominantly white schools his whole life. But his mom really wanted him to have a black girlfriend. So she's like, yeah, son, even though you've been going to predominantly white schools all your life, I do want you to have a black girlfriend. And even after he finished his adolescent education, his mom still wanted him to go to Northwestern, which is, Ivy League and obviously a PWI. And that just wasn't the life he wanted for himself. So while trying to make amends from a fight he had with Keisha, his mom confiscated his electronics and made him do his homework on her laptop. And that's where he rediscovers his love for music. He really enjoyed making music back when he was in elementary school. And that was something that made him happy. He originally did love playing basketball because Justin's a basketball player, but it eventually became about him chasing scholarships in order to play for a D1 school than him actually playing for the love of the game. And so by the time the season ends, we see him being able to speak up for himself and him pursuing a career in music. He is taking a year off to see where the music thing goes, and then we'll see. And with the 4-year time jump, I'm excited to see where Justin did end up. I do feel like, yeah, he could have went to college and studied music, but hey, if he wanted to do a 1-year certification and go from there, I don't mind it. And what I really loved about Justin and Keisha's relationship was that they weren't afraid to call each other out on their mess. When one of them was doing something wrong, they made sure to call them out on that, and they made sure to give them space. Whether that came with blocking their numbers because they weren't playing, they were like, okay, you clearly have a lot of things you need to work on, and I can't be your collateral damage in that process. So I'm going to give you that space. And once you've worked out your issues, like, we can try again and see how this thing goes. And not only that, they are also each other's biggest cheerleaders. They say the things the other person is scared to say. And that causes both of them to live better lives than they had been when we first met them at the start of the show. Now, when season 2 premieres in 2027, Netflix better not slack off with the promo, because they love making us wait 2 to 3 years for 8 to 10 episodes, and then they'll drop the ball when it comes to promoting. The second they finish production, I need the promo to be on 10, because Forever and the spin-off of the classic A Different World are the only Black young adult shows we have on television, and we need them to get all the seasons they can get. Forever cannot end until we see Justin and Keisha living their happily ever after, married. Okay? So anyways, y'all, that is the end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe, and check out my last video right here. Anyways, y'all, I'll see you guys next time.